G'day, everybody. Welcome back to Metaphysics of Fiction. I am your host, Lewis Briffa.
And I'm Jack.
Today, we are going to be talking about a very favorite movie of mine, Kong Skull Island. Today, we'll be talking about how Kong actually can reflect some of the other characters that are represented in the movie and different forms of representations that they actually take because they're all different forms of people. So, jumping into it, I think that the most obvious reflection, in a way, that Kong takes is of Samuel L. Jackson's character, Colonel Packard. They're both people that have seen a lot of battle. They've gone through a lot of hells because this is taking place almost at the very end of the Vietnam War. So Colonel Packard has obviously gone through hell. And Kong has always been going through his own form of personal hell by fighting the Skullcrawlers constantly by himself. So the most obvious motive of that is right after the big fight scene where Kong destroys all these helicopters that were attacking the island, and Packard and Kong are just having this massive stare down with each other. They were both the same person in a way. In that moment, you can feel that they are both the same person in this moment, but at the same time, they are seeing an enemy in each other.
Yeah, I definitely got something similar. So I sort of noticed that the four main characters, the four main protagonists, all of them are sort of searching for something, right? For the case of the Colonel, there's that specific scene just before they get to the island where he opens up his little box of war trinkets, and he's looking down at them, and he's like, I've been through all of that for this. You know, he's just kind of he's in my eyes, he's lost the reason for why he joined the military. And when he gets to the island, and that scene where where Kong is swatting down all the different helicopters, there is just a focus on him. And later in the movie, he even goes, "I know an enemy when I see one." And so I think that for Samuel L. Jackson's character, what has happened is he's lost his purpose, and he doesn't know how to fill it. And this is why he just very easily jumps on the mission. It's just like, even the guy on the phone call was like, "Hey, listen, you're going home tomorrow. Like, are you sure you want to go to Skull Island?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm waiting for orders. I'm ready to go. Let's go." And the entire time while he's on the island, he is driven to fight the enemy. It's the only thing he knows to do. It is his purpose that he has filled in.
Yeah, it's not even just that. When he meets Mason Weaver, Brie Larson's character, he actually said the words, "We didn't lose the Vietnam War, we abandoned it." And that made him also feel like he lost a little respect in like the people that got him to fight the war. And that felt like a massive loss. So he was absolutely determined to take down Kong because he didn't want to lose again. He didn't want to feel like that failure.
Yeah, his enemy was taken away from him. There's also like a little bit of history around that, like, because during the Vietnam War, the Americans were they essentially pulled out because of political disputes happening on American soil, and
Yeah.
whether or not they should or should not be in Vietnam. And so they pulled out from the Vietnamese, from the south side.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
he's searching. He's lost his purpose, and he's searching to try and fill that void. And the only thing he knows to fill it with is an enemy. He knows
Yeah.
that he knows that as long as he has an enemy in front of him, he has a reason to move forward.
And then along comes the big hairy monkey.
And I think, like, it's kind of interesting as well, because something I noticed with Kong as well is, I think that there's a little bit of an idea of Kong taking sort of what those four main characters are searching for, and protecting and like perfecting it. Sorry. And so in Kong's case, right, Kong also, you know, he's searching for an enemy to fight. But the reason he's searching for an enemy to fight is to protect everyone. It's to protect humanity. And that's what the Colonel has lost. The Colonel just sees an enemy. He's like, "I need an enemy because I need to kill an enemy." But Kong sees an enemy, and he goes, "I need to get rid of this guy because I need to protect these people."
I actually have an interesting theory about if let's say if Kong was actually real, I have an interesting theory that he would actually do something like that. He would actually protect humanity. It's been confirmed that Kong is the last of his kind. There were a lot of giant apes like him, and they're all gone now. I feel like Kong would actually protect humanity because of a sense of familiarity he would have with other humans. He would be alone, and then he'd find these tiny creatures that stood upright, have 5 fingers, 5 toes, no, 4 fingers and a thumb, 5 toes, um, kind of had the same body structure. They're very similar to him, so he'd probably feel like a form of kinship with the humans. That's why he'd feel this need to protect them. They're the last of his. They're also the last of his kind.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good in universe way of rationalizing why a giant monkey wouldn't just destroy everything.
Hey, this is metaphysics of fiction, man. We talk about how things seem fictional, and we could actually see and explain it. We explain the stuff that doesn't really need explaining. That's what we
So,
do.
so talking about the reporter character.
Yep.
So, what do you think about her? Because if I were to categorize all the main characters as they're searching for something, I would see her as searching for something to save.
Yeah, that's you actually see that when she's trying to help out that ox that was pinned under that helicopter. I mean, there was no way she was ever going to move that.
Hmm.
And that moment is actually where Kong reflects Mason that she's trying to help. So Kong also helps. Kong lifts the helicopter right off. I also think that she's a good representation of curiosity because the next moment when she interacts with Kong is when she's just on the edge of that cliff with Conrad, Tom Hiddleston's character, and Kong's just kind of moving on towards her, and like they're just curious about each other. They just want to see what each other's like.
Hmm. I think because also they talk verbally about different feats she's accomplished as well, where she's documented different human rights violations, different war crimes or something throughout the world during that
Yeah.
time. But the one thing that I see in her character is that she's really quick to abandon. After she's helped the person she's helping, she's quick to abandon that subject, right? So before she got on the boat to Skull Island, she was meant to receive an award for her journalism, right? And she's on the phone call with the guy, and she's like, "Nah, I'm going over here. I'm going over here because this seems interesting. Like all these reporters are saying the same thing. That obviously means they're lying. Like I got to get on this boat and get over there." And with the ox scene as well, she's very narrow, right? It's there's this ox, it's hurt, it's pinned under the plane, and I gotta help the ox. But and again, this idea that Kong sort of perfects what he's reflecting, that Kong is he's not very narrow in what he's trying to save. He's not very narrow. He's very focused on what he's trying to save. He's spent all this time on the island just sort of dealing with this one singular problem.
Yeah,
Whereas
dealing with
she's
the
while she has gone from topic to topic.
Well, you kind of want that type of personality trait in a journalist. One that doesn't think that, well, here's my story. I'm going to focus on this for the rest of my life. You got to get to the next one once I've dealt with this one. So yeah, you got to look at it kind of like that. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, true. But I mean, you know, she could have pursued the different places she's been a little bit longer. She could have stuck with it a little bit more. But she sort of she nearly leaves it every time it's about to be completed. At least in the verbal feats, like we don't actually get to see much of that part of her, other than her developing photos.
Yeah,
But verbally, this is what I got from her character and her story.
yeah. You can also kind of like when it comes to reflection, you can also tell in a way Kong does have like his own code of honor in a way. Like he likes to physically reflect like he likes to pick up things from other humans, so he like watches humans and he picks things up. You can actually see this during his fight with the big Skullcrawler, the final battle, when he picks up the tree. He actually picks it up and rips off the twigs like he's drawing a samurai sword, like the guy at the very, very, very start, the Japanese guy from World War II that landed with John C. Riley's character. So he kind of has a way of the warrior thing about him. Like he picks that up and like he learned how to do it. He learned how to pick it up and do the
Hmm.
whole sword thing, and it also kind of reflects like a way of honor from the from all the soldiers, from particularly that Japanese guy, because the fact is the Japanese hold honor, the idea of honor, very highly.
Hmm.
And Kong didn't really have to help out these particular humans. He's putting his life on the line against this creature. He's going to keep fighting it, even though he could just let it go, kill the
Yeah.
humans while
In
he's
fact,
wrapping up a
those
run.
humans not only a couple hours ago just nuked him with napalm.
Yeah, yeah. So he really had no obligation to actually help them. He just did it because he has his own sense of honor. He feels like he's got to protect these guys.
Yeah, and it kind of fits into the archetype of the warrior monk, right?
Mm,
In sort of the Eastern tradition, there's these different sort of archetypes that go in a cycle, and one's like a warrior, one's a monk, one's a priest, one's a what's it called? A philanthropist or seller, a commerce kind of guy.
yeah,
Forgetting
I
the
know what
word
you're
for it.
talking about.
Yeah, and you know, as another example of like a warrior monk would be the Jedi's from Star Wars. They're warrior monks. They're people who have a code of honor. Like they're trained soldiers, but they have a philosophy. They have a code they live by. And I think Kong reflects that quite
Oh
a bit as
yeah,
well as a kind
definitely.
of warrior monk.
Yeah, definitely. That actually does make a lot of sense. Another piece that Con reflects was that downed soldier, the one that was in the big helicopter and gets separated from all the rest, so he has to wait there for everyone else to get him. That's that moment when both he and Kong are in the lake and they're just kind of washing off their battle scars. And they really do they really reflect in that moment because the fact that they are both two people that don't want to fight anymore. The soldier just wants to go home to his kid, and because he was all ready to go home, he had his new job lined up, he had his son waiting for him, he had his wife waiting for him, and Kong just wants to just mosey around the island. He just wants to be safe. He just wants people to be safe. He just wants to be at peace. So that is actually I really like that moment, and because it really does show how hard Kong actually has it, and that he really just wants to. He just really wants peace. He just wants to eat his giant squid.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're very on the nose with the reflection in that scene because
Hmm.
they both put their finger in the water in the same way, and they both
Hmm.
satisfy themselves in the same way.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely that overarching theme of just an isolated soldier. You know, they're just stuck there by themselves, and they have to fight it out, and that's what they have to do.
Hmm.
They can't do anything else. It won't let them. It literally won't let them. Like with Kong, the octopus just comes out of nowhere, you know, and the skull crawler, I think they call it, because the skull crawler comes out of nowhere
Yeah.
for the soldier.
Oh yeah, that part. Like I remember seeing that in the when I first saw it in the theaters, and it just comes at you, and it's like, and that was like right after that giant centipede in a log thing, and that was like, I'm still wondering what the heck that was all about. I mean, why? He just takes a couple of shots and walks off.
The lug was sleeping, and it was like, oh man, like, you know, why are you sitting on me? And then it just walks away.
Oh, why are you shooting me? Why are you
I think it's
shooting me?
implied that's where the skull crawler got him. I think
Yeah,
that it ran away
he
because
knew
he
that the
turns
skull.
around as well, and he's sort of like a little bit like afraid and shocked.
Yeah, he probably didn't get far. Because in fact, I remember reading a comic for Kong Skull Island, and they described the skull crawlers as a type of creature. There's a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's a creature that actually has to keep on eating. like it can't stop eating, otherwise it could actually die. Like its metabolism continuously goes and goes and goes. It keeps going, so it is constantly burning off fat.
Mm.
So it has to keep eating. So that they probably didn't actually get far.
Yeah, they
But
have a bit of dualism going there with the two creatures. It's a monster movie, and like obviously there's opposing sides, but it's a little bit thicker than most. Because of the skull crawlers, they live underground, right? And the only thing that they do is just pure violence. It's pure killing. It's almost a game for them. Where Kong is on top of ground, and usually there's the difference in mythology in terms of the underworld, chaotic, violent, dark, evil, things like that.
yeah, in
Where
fact,
the
we actually hear that from John C. Reilly's character Marlowe when he uses the line, "He got Kong, he's God around here, but the devils live below us." I love
yes,
John C. Reilly's character. He was cool.
I kind of like there was a moment in the movie where he starts talking. I'm like, oh, so you're the character that explains everything to me. I couldn't think of I can't actually think of a reason as to why he would be there and alive. Like, it was confusing having him there.
Well, of course, you always need that character to explain everything because he's not actually explaining things to the other
Yeah.
characters. He's explaining things to the audience.
Yeah, there were a couple of times where I was sort of taken out of the movie and I was like, oh, they're speaking to me.
Yeah.
What about Magneto?
What's that got to do about anything about Magneto?
Because he's the guy that plays Magneto. I don't know any actors' names, by the way. I know no actors' names other than Samuel L. Jackson.
John C.
And
Reilly never played Magneto.
I mean, no, isn't he? Yeah, he's Magneto in the X-Men movies.
No, he's not. That's Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender.
So they must look exactly the same then. My God, all right. So
Which one
I
are
know
you
none of
Are you talking about
I
the old
swear.
Magneto or the young Magneto?
Young Magneto.
That's Michael Fassbender.
Wow. So I literally, he looks exactly the same to me.
He looks nothing like him.
He looks exactly, and he sounds exactly the same. It's that same British accent.
He's not even British. John C. Reilly's full-on American.
Well. So what do you think of that character, the Hunter, then?
Which hunter?
The tracker.
Oh, Conrad, Loki, right? Tom Hiddleston, the good-looking. Wait, hang on. Are you talking about Tom Hiddleston looking like the guy that plays Magneto?
I'm talking about the guy they find in a bar in Korea or something.
I thought you were talking about the guy that I thought you were talking about that World War II guy that crashed.
No, of course not.
It's okay, so that mistake makes a lot more sense to me. That's where but still, that's not Magneto. That's Loki. That's Loki from the Thor movies.
Like Magneto. I didn't listen. I actually don't like the Thor movies so much. I completely forgot that that's Loki. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hot take coming here. I don't like Thor.
Number 3, I get. Number 3, I don't like either. Number 1 was gorgeous.
I don't like 1. I don't like 2. I don't like Ragnarok.
I really hate Ragnarok.
I don't like any of them.
Anyway.
So what do you think of Loki?
I liked Loki's character, but I think he was kind of unutilized to what he was actually supposed to do.
In terms of Kong or in terms of Thor?
No, in terms of Thor, he was great. He performed Loki perfectly. In terms of Kong, he was probably. I felt like he was meant to be that whole mysterious warrior type of deal that has all these years behind him, doing all these nasty jobs that makes him an incredibly competent guy. But the fact is that was never really explored. And I think that's also because despite all these things he does, now that I think about it, this is probably what he was meant to have. Like, he was meant to seem like this guy. And then they put him in all these situations where he's done all this crap, he's survived all this crap, and then he thinks he's seen it all, done it all. That's why he's listing all these things. That's how he's going to kill the guys when they go to see him. Then He goes to this island, and he is completely on his toes. He knows he's screwed because how the hell can anybody know how to live on an island with giant apes, big skull lizards, giant oxes, and the sword birds? God, those things creep me out.
So I I understand your confusion because I was confused up until the end of the movie as well. Because if I had to categorize him as someone who's searching for something, then he's the guy who is he is actually just looking for something. He's either looking for something for I couldn't decide as to which one it was. He's either looking for a way to escape or he's looking for something to search. He actually doesn't have meaning in his life. And
Yeah,
you
I
can
actually
kind of
can
tell
go
this
get that.
you can kind of tell this in a couple of scenes where he talks about how he's talking about his dad, and he's talking about how you don't really escape the war. No one really gets out of the war. And I think that him being ex special forces, even though he's ex special forces, he's still dragged into the war zone. He's still dragged in as a tracker. And he's
Yeah.
still dragged into these conflicts, and he's just trying to look for a way to get out of it. And I think what the movie, either they forget about his character and they drop his arc up at the stargazing scene, or they're trying to make a statement where, well, I mean, sometimes you just can't find an answer. You can't find an answer. You can't find a new purpose. You can't find a way out of the situation you're in. Sometimes you're just going to be stuck searching, and it's very foggy as to whether or not you're going to get out.
Well, using that logic, then that's full on his reflection of Kong. Like as you said earlier, Kong can't find a way out. He's stuck doing what he has to do.
Mm.
So technically, with Tom Hiddleston's character Conrad, he's also stuck. He's going to be stuck in this endless cycle because he can't find his way out, just like Kong can't find his way out of his war. They're both stuck in their never-ending cycle.
Yeah,
So
like I
yeah,
would say that Kong's perfect reflection of that character is that he's just accepted that this is now his purpose. Like probably Kong wants a way off the island. Kong probably wants a way to stop fighting the crawlers or to stop them entirely. But Kong can't find a way, and so he's now stuck in this perpetual searching. And so what I think, at least with Kong, is he's just accepted that this is his life on the island, that this is what he does, this is his purpose.
well, that's all going to change very soon in the 2021 movie Godzilla versus Kong. Oh, God, I am so looking forward to that.
How are they gonna get him off the island? Like they've set it up so well that it's like, oh, it's a perpetual typhoon that's around this island.
I don't know. I think it has something to do with the Godzilla movie King of the Monsters. It had like King Ghidorah, who actually was a storm. He like maybe he turns it off somehow. Maybe.
Uh,
Don't worry, I'm not going to get you to watch King of the Monsters because you're so scared of big monster movies.
oh, I mean, they're just so boring.
What the hell's wrong with them?
I'm waiting for the action scene half the time. I'm just sitting here and I'm like trying to like do these analysis of the characters, and then the action starts happening. I'm like, oh yay, CGI fight. It's the first time I've ever said
Big
yay
CGI fight coming up.
Um, so
that is
there's
the tricky part.
yeah, there's one last character that I can talk about at least. I don't know about you, and that is Fred Flintstone. I've written him down in my notes.
You mean the guy that got the mission approved and
Yes,
John Goodman? That's not
yes.
Fred Flintstone. No, wait, that is Fred Flintstone.
He
You
is
played
Fred Flintstone. That is an old movie, and I love it.
Oh my God, how old are we again?
Yeah, 26. It's so sad.
I know, 25. I'm right behind you. And you do know he was also Sully on Monsters Inc., right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, just making sure, just clearing that up.
He's
Yeah, I
done a
like
lot
his
of
character.
really amazing voice work over the years.
Mm. Yeah, John
So,
Goodman, he's just great.
so what do you think of his character?
Well, he is the character that they would use to bring everyone together because it was his idea. But he's also the one. You're right, because he's the one that's also searching for something. He was searching for Kong.
Hmm.
Like he's the type of guy that would go searching for something because of some purpose or drive right behind him, which was that the attack that he survived on the boat. So he made it his life purpose to find something else like it, but then he regrets it when he finds it.
Yeah. He's definitely a man who is searching for something he's searching to prove something.
Mm.
And you can see that in the bunch of scenes, like, you know, when he's talking about how he was the only survivor on the boat and he's trying to convince everyone that monsters exist and all those kinds of things. But it's kind of funny because I know I've been saying this whole time that Kong has a sort of perfect reflection of all these different characters. But this sort of theme of proving yourself isn't reflected, at least in Kong, at least not explicitly, and I think that's a little bit intentional, where it's not about proving yourself. It's not about proving that you're right. It's just a matter of fact. It's a brute fact. It's a truth. It's just a reality, right? It's not something you need to prove. It's just existence.
Yeah, because Kong knows that if he's not around to fight the Skullcrawlers, then they're going to run rampant. He's the only thing holding him back. That was actually mentioned by the John Goodman's assistant. What's that guy's name? Mills. He actually, when they find out that Packard wants to kill Kong, he actually does say that if you remove a creature's natural opposition, then the other one is just going to go nuts. So if you remove Kong, then the Skullcrawlers are all going to go nuts. And now that Kong's taken out, and then the big one comes along and almost kills Kong, and Kong manages to kill the big one by ripping out its intestines. I remember when I was in theaters saw that. I actually almost threw up when I saw that. I was like, oh, God, that's graphic and so awesome. And like you said, it's a matter of fact. Kong has to beat these guys. Kong will beat these guys because he's Kong.
Yeah, Kong doesn't need to prove anything. It's just him simply existing is proof itself. Him just protecting the humans is proof that he cares for the humans. It's nothing that he needs to go out of his way and do. It's something that is just part of him.
Yeah, it's his purpose. It's him being a part of the circle of life.
Yeah, and that links back into Jackson's character. Where, you know, his purpose is protection, where Jackson has misguidingly has made his purpose to fight the enemy, which is not the same as protecting people.
Yeah, in fact, he outright says that we as soldiers, we do the dirty work. The people on the other side shouldn't even know that something like this exists.
Exactly.
I feel like maybe that also could be something of a reference to the Vietnam War, that the soldiers are going to do the dirty work and they shouldn't know something like this exists. And that's one of his problems with the with Mason being a photographer, because he actually mentioned that he had a problem with the camera that she was carrying, and he actually is saying that maybe that could have been like a reference to the usage of stuff like Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. That really nasty chemical, the nasty chemical warfare that showed that he was willing to do it, but he was also willing to kind of cover it up.
Yeah, and well, the reason why he's willing to cover up, the reason why he doesn't like the camera, the reason why he's a bit of an antagonist in the movie is because he needs that enemy to fight. Because if he doesn't have the enemy to fight, he doesn't have a purpose anymore. He has nothing driving him. He has no reason to be there. He looks at his box and he goes, well, "Is this really all that it was for?" He needs to keep going, because if he stops, he has to face that reality.
And not only that, he also probably feels like he has to win, because, as the old saying goes, history is written by the winners. So he could pretty much make his history whatever he feels like is necessary. He can be the good guy.
Yeah, and you know, this is something that you can see, because this movie is relatively old now. It's like 5+ years old.
3,
3 years. Oh, really? Wow, it's more recent than I
2017.
thought. Well, it's something that you can actually see in the Boys TV show, at least in the comics, the Boys comics.
Oh, you read the boys'
The
comics.
It's similar to Billy the Butcher, where Billy the Butcher can't give up fighting superheroes. He needs to fight superheroes. It's
Oh
his
yeah.
reason. It's his obsession, right? And it's the same with Jackson's character. He needs to fight an enemy, but the problem with always trying to find an enemy to fight is you just end up creating them, and sometimes you mistake the good people as your enemies. If
Yeah,
that is
definitely.
your sole purpose.
Yeah, I'd probably mention a few things that probably happened at the end of the boys series in the comics, but I don't know if anyone here actually watches the boys and doesn't
We
want any
could cover the
spoilers.
Boys one time because that's a very interesting series I've seen.
Series or comics?
The comics and the series. Well, the series, like,
Yeah, we'll
again,
just say metafiction of the boys.
another hot take. The TV show season 2, not that good.
I haven't watched it yet. But I've like seen clips, so I can't actually believe you on that one, especially after reading the comics.
Um, is there anything else that you gleaned from this movie?
One last little bit of reflection, but it wasn't of Kong. It was during the scene where the soldiers were walking, and there was this little bit of a moment that I think was kind of reflective of the Vietnam War itself when the soldiers fought that giant bamboo spider, and how it actually shoved its leg and spine down one of the guy's throat. I think that might have been like a reference to like some Viet Cong torture tactics there.
That is true. The Vietnamese Cong used to set up bamboo traps, so they would dig a hole, and they would put bamboo shards in this trap, and sometimes they would put the bamboo spikes on rollers, so it would basically pincushion a guy as they're going down. And these traps specifically didn't often kill the person. The person was kind of like stuck there, and they would live for a little bit, sort of in pain while suffering under this trap. It was a very vicious trap. So yeah, there's a very direct reference there with that spider.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you see when Packard was shooting it to death. Like that was probably him reliving all of his moments back in the Vietnam War. Like this, like he probably saw the spider like a Viet Cong, and he just had to kill it
Yeah.
because it was killing his men. It was literally the Viet Cong as a form of a giant spider. And my God, that part freaked me out.
Mm.
All right, yeah, I think we're going to call it there. I think that's pretty much everything I had to say. Tune in next time. We will be covering the Marvel movie Iron Man, while also going over maybe some of the stuff that he goes through in comics and other TV series. Join us next time on Metaphysics of Fiction. I am your host, Lewis Briffa.
And I'm Jack Carlin.
See you next time, and thanks for tuning in to Metaphysics of Fiction. See you later.
Bye.